Radio.
Prime Audio Radio, delighted today to be joined by Nick from Paradise Lost. Dude, how you doing?
Hello. Hi. Yes, good to be here.
It's very good to speak to you, man. I was thinking back to when the last time it was that we spoke, and it made me laugh because it was actually back on the Faith Divides Us, Death Unites Us album, which was quite a while ago now. In my head, I was like, oh, that was, maybe like 10. No, it was about 2009.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
a long time ago. We both had longer hair back then.
Well, not mine went, then it came back, then it's gone now, but it's gone for good, I think,
again.
now. It's definitely gone for good now.
No, I don't. I mean, it's just about there, but it's thinning every year, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But how are you, man?
All right, yeah, we played in Leeds last night. We did a show, like a sort of launch show, did some new songs, and then I'm heading out of London in an hour or two. We're doing a in-store signing in London, so yeah, we're busy, yeah. All good.
I know you're from Halifax, of course, but Leeds close. Like, did it have like a hometown show sort of feel?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I live closer to Leeds than I do Halifax anyway. So no one in the band's actually lived in Halifax for decades, but we're obviously originally from there. But yeah, we kind of moved to all different places.
Yeah. So it's nice to do essentially a hometown show then, in many ways.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, we're doing. Even Manchester has that feel as well. Really, it's not that far away to Manchester, so it's anywhere sort of around within like kind of a 50-mile radius feels like a hometown gig to a degree.
So congratulations on your new 17th studio album, Ascension. The song kicks off with Serpent on the Cross, and religion definitely seems to have a bigger part of people's lives again in 2025. I was wondering, has that been a little bit of a surprise to you at all?
I don't know. I'm not religious myself. I mean, I find religion. I find what makes people religious interesting. That's more of an interest for me than actual religion itself. I think what makes people believe in anything, or what makes people tick, is far more interesting than the actual the thing itself. But yeah, I mean, religion does interest me, and why people want to believe in something. I'm particularly like believing in life after death and all that. It's always quite interesting. But I mean, myself, I'm not religious whatsoever. But I certainly have nothing against anyone that is. As long as it's
I'm in the same boat. I'm somewhere between agnosticism and atheism. But I find religion very fascinating as well, particularly like the history of religion. I was wondering, like, when you first started the band, what drew you to John Milton's poem? Like, do you remember reading Paradise Lost for the first time?
The book was in my parents' house, Paradise Lost. It was like a very old book, an old print of it, and I don't know what that probably was my grandparents, because there was no way my parents would have that book in their house for any other reason. But I found it, and I didn't really know what it was about. And I skim read it. I've never actually read the whole thing, but I kind of thought, this sounds like quite a bit of a heavy subject. I quite like the idea of this. So I think I suggested the band, the title for the band. I think before that we were called Corpse Grinder or something, so it's a bit of a swing to Paradise Lost. But so yeah, I think we actually were called Corpse Grinder for a few days. So yeah, but I suggested that, and I sort of said what the book's about, and it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was it really. But I mean, no, I haven't read it all. I've kind of skim read a lot of it, but yeah, I should read it at some point, I guess. But
Well, I very much consume a lot of content on YouTube, because I like to read books, but if I'm honest, I really struggle to find the time to allocate like 3-4 hours to read a book. And I was watching a video on the concept of Paradise Lost the other day, and to me, just the whole thing that was fascinating about it is that, okay, yes, obviously very religious, but it's very human in its nature. The idea of sin and betrayal and sexual lust and all of these sorts of things. It's a very human story, ultimately, Paradise Lost, when you take out some of the religious tones of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm going to have to read it, because I mean, it's sort of any sort of. I mean, people do talk about it, but I mean, you're talking nearly 40 years ago when we chose the name. So I haven't actually looked at a copy of the book since then. So yeah, like you say, I should actually make a point of it. I mean, maybe I could get an audiobook version, because I'm kind of in an audiobook. So that'd be actually perfect, actually. I could just listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I sort of like recently, I feel like I'm kind of similar to you, I'm not religious, but I find it very interesting. And particularly recently, I've been getting interested in religious history, not so much like the holy text, but more coming from like third party sources. So what did the Romans say about Jesus and that sort of thing? And I don't know if you've delved into that at all, but I was wondering, like, do you think that can actually help create a clearer picture of religion, having like a third party going in and going, well, yes, Jesus, the cross and all of that, but here's a third party.
I could see historically why people were believing like worshiping the sun, etc. When you go right back, why people would believe in certain things, worshiping the sea or whatever, things they can physically see. But beyond that, on a spiritual level, I can't even contemplate it because I just don't have any inclination that way. I can only believe in what I can see, absolutely concrete in that. So I'm totally very atheist in that regard. But again, I don't like that kind of flag waving. Oh, I'm an atheist. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? People can believe what they want, but it's just something I find it impossible to believe. I mean, if people talk about spiritualists and all that, I just like, yeah, it's just not. But I mean, if people believe it, fine. But like I said, nothing wrong with it. If it helps you through your life, great. But it's not for me.
See, I think what I'm driving at really more is like you're talking about there, about the real, the physical. So there's some great accounts in Roman sources about Jesus getting crucified, and these are lots of different sources that are kind of like historians would sort of verify them. And I'm looking at it going like, whoever he was, like he definitely seemed like a rebel rouser at the time, and it helps bring it into context a bit of.
I'm sure the
religion.
I'm sure the story's changed many times with translations. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure the original story is probably a lot different than the one that we know, maybe. So I'm sure it's been changed a hell of a lot over the years and the centuries that's gone by since. But I mean, even that. I mean, it's a very interesting story. I mean, I did the study of the Bible at school. I was finding it quite interesting when I was at school. I remember religious education. It was kind of forced upon us, but it was actually quite interesting for the most part. So it was better than maths.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Church of England school as well, and and as you say, the if you just take them as stories, they are actually very fascinating stories. Like just as a writer. Talk to me about the title Ascension. Is that also rooted in religion, or does it sort of go a little bit beyond religion?
It's more about just sort of striving, doing your best in life that you can, and try to rise. Because from the minute you're born, that's what you're doing. You just try to do your best in life and make the best of what you got against things being hurled at you, negative things, bad things happen to you. There's a lot of bad things happen to very good people, and some good things happen to very bad people. So it's about the uncertainty in life and trying to just do the best that you can in the time that you've got, the short time that you've got. So it's more about that aspect, really.
And it's funny, isn't it, as you're sort of describing it? I think that is probably one of the reasons people do find comfort in religion. Time is short.
Death is an absolute. Death is a prospect and a terrifying prospect for everybody. And if you think that that's the end when you die, there's nothing else. Which I do believe that personally. But if you want to believe that, we're going to carry on and there's something else at the end of the rainbow sort of vibe, and then I mean, if it doesn't hurt anybody else, why not? But for me, it's you're dead, you're dead. That's what I think personally. But
There's a great quote from Pirates of the Caribbean when they're talking about the afterlife. It's life is cruel. Why should the afterlife be any different?
Yeah, that's so
the prospect of an afterlife kind of terrifies me a little bit. I'm like, this life is hard enough. It's just a brilliant quote that sort of sums up things. Going, yes, the afterlife. Maybe a bit more difficult than we might think, as sort of we perceive it here on Earth. On the album, I thought Lay a Wreath Upon the World was like a really nice surprise. It sort of gave the album this bit of breathing room. How did that track come together?
That's probably the first song we wrote. We wrote that a long time ago, that song. And I came up with a title a long time ago as well. And we shelved it for some time, and we almost didn't use it. But then when we were putting all the songs together, particularly the later songs that we wrote, I remember listening to it, and I said to Greg, I said, we should bring this back because it's a pretty good song. Then we brought it back, and then Greg sort of worked more on the music side of it, and we kind of kicked it into shape. But it's it's very different to the other songs. Like you said, I quite like that because it's the only one of its kind on the album, you know. But it, you know, in context, it works, I think, nicely with everything else that's on there.
Yeah, it does. And I know you said, and you talk a lot about lyrics and how you put a lot into them. So talk to me a little bit about the lyrical meaning behind this track.
It's funny because I mean I came with the title because the title was so negative. I mean I really like big, bold, negative song titles. I mean I've got lots of them, and I really like, and that Wreath Upon the World. I just kind of like that title. It's like really, it's so dark. It's like, oh wow. So I mean it's so kind of so dark. It kind of made me smile, and I can't remember where I got it from actually. But I mean, I usually write. I come up with lyrics and titles, and I think of them. Or I might hear a line in a film, or someone says something in a film, or something I read, and I tend to write in my phone, and then I'll come back to it again. But I mean, that song's it's kind of about man destroying himself. Ultimately, that's what the kind of thing. But I mean, there's about, I don't know, 8 or 9 lines in the song, so you're not getting. You know, it's not like Lord of the Rings book or anything. It's not some. It's just kind of 8 lines. So you can only do so much in that space. But yeah, it's more about you know, man kind of not heeding warnings and not listening to warnings, and you know, and it'll probably happen anyway, you know, sooner or later, you know.
Yeah, I think that title it invokes imagery because we all know, we've all seen, whether it's government officials, you know, statespeople, whatever, that, you know, laying the wreath, you know, on certain dates, you know, different wars all around the world. So you immediately have this image of your head of people laying wreaths to fallen dead. And I think that's what sort of gives the song its power a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's but like I said, it's the titles. It's a very typical PL type title. Because I mean, when I'm looking down the set list when we play live, there's so many negative titles. I mean, As I Die being the old one, the old classic. But I mean, like I said, I take a sort of twisted amusement in when something's very so negative. It's almost funny, you know. A bit of dark humor in there as well.
Well, yeah, I suppose in many ways that is the thread in many Paradise Lost albums. I think particularly in just your character as well, you know, dark humor. Because I sometimes I have wondered with Paradise Lost music, or even when you're just spending so much time in dark themes, dark elements. Like, do you ever struggle with that and go, actually, I'd like to just put on a comedy and not be in the darkness for a bit?
No, it's absolutely fine. If it suits, you know, musically, lyrically, it all totally suits us as people. It's what we're into. You know, we enjoy that. We like dark horror films. We like everything. We like is kind of lean in that direction. You know, I mean, growing up, I was a massive fan of horror. I still am a fan of horror, but I mean, getting into heavy metal bands such as Sabbath, it was an obvious thing to move into from watching horror movies when I was a kid. So it sort of goes hand in hand with that. So that. Yeah, you know, the cap completely fits. It's not like it's, I wouldn't, I find, you know, the kind of happy bands or bands that seem outwardly happy and zany, I find that way more depressing than bands looking miserable ever could be. You know, that kind of forced fun aspect to some bands and some music is just, yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah. You mentioned Sabbath. Did you cross with Sabbath or Ozzy over the years in Paradise Lost?
Yeah, we toured we played with Sabbath and we played with Ozzy. We did a tour with Ozzy in South America in 1995. We did a full South American tour, arena tour. And, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I met him a few times over the years. Yeah, great guy. Really sad. Yeah, top man.
Talk to me about that South American tour. That must have been, because obviously 1995, that was you know, such a pivotal moment for Paradise Lost. You must have felt sort of, you know, quite top of the world at that moment. You know, South America, Black Sabbath, you're all popping off as a band.
Yeah, it was quite surreal. I mean, it was the Monsters of Rock South America. There was PL, there was Therapy on as well, and Therapy were just like we were. They couldn't believe they were on that tour. And then there was Alice Cooper, Ozzy, Megadeth, and Faith No More. And there was like a touring. I don't know how many dates we did. It was a few weeks. So yeah, but I got salmonella poisoning actually in Mexico City, and I was really, really ill for a few shows, and I was kind of puking up constantly. When I was on stage, I was puking up as well. So they had to get me a bucket so I didn't ruin Ozzy's carpet. So they got me a bucket. So they said, "Can you puke in the bucket, please? Because we don't want you to mess with Ozzy's carpet." Because he used to go barefoot on the carpet at that time.
Right.
So I had to kind of go around the corner and throw up in the bucket. So But I mean, that's probably why I think Ozzy mentioned us in an interview a few years later, and he kind of remembered only because of that, the puking thing. You know, he kind of remembered that. But yeah. No, it was very surreal. It was very surreal to do that tour. It was crazy, and there was, like I said, there was so many people at shows. It was madness. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I could imagine if you did throw up on the carpet because it's Ozzy, he probably would have been.
I did. The thing is,
at first annoyed. Then he would have been like, "Well, fair, respect."
I did it. I did it first, and then I think the stage manager went, "Oh no, we can't have this." And then they got me a bucket. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Thinking to the 90s, sadly, we lost Thomas Lindberg at the Gates as well. And again, I was just wondering if you ever really crossed paths with Thomas. Or
he was a mate. Yeah.
A good friend of yours.
Sure, yeah, because Adrian Lanson was in Paradise Lost for years, so
sure,
we were mates. Yeah, I hadn't actually seen him for a couple of years actually, and I heard he was diagnosed with it not long after I'd seen him, maybe about 8 months after I'd sort of last seen him, and then obviously, it's bad, man. Yeah, horrible. Yeah, he was a great guy. He was good fun, really, real sociable, outgoing chap. Real shame, absolute shame.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been nice to see all of the tributes coming in for Thomas, in particular, really mentioning his contribution to the Gothenburg or melodic death metal scene. And I wonder if I could sort of get your thoughts on that, because Paradise Lost, I guess, just about sort of predates the Gothenburg scene, or very much coming at the same time. But I think Paradise Lost started in 1988, sort of before it all kicked off in the 90s. So what was your thoughts back then as you were seeing all these bands coming out of Norway and seeing all these death and black metal bands, and there you were sort of just doing it just before them, I guess.
Well, I mean, we were sort of similar. I mean, I was a little bit older than Thomas, but I mean, Adrian and Lance the same age as me. So I mean, a lot of the people that were the same age, we all grew up like tape trading and the underground death metal and black metal bands. So we were all mixing the same circles, and then obviously various areas in Scandinavia started branching out into, and then the bands that we know, like Out the Gates, etc., they started coming through. But I remember when Out the Gates signed, I think they signed to Peaceful. I think a couple of years after we were on Peaceful, I think it was Peaceful. So yeah, but again, because we're a similar age, we grew up listening to the same stuff, So I mean, Thomas, I could sit and talk about underground bands with him for hours, if I saw him backstage or whatever, we'd always kind of waffling about the 80s and the bands that we used to like back then. I mean, everyone was kind of into the same stuff because at that time, death metal was in its infancy. There was bands around, but it didn't really take off for quite a few years after that. It's probably around. I started listening to like Venom in 1983 or something, 1984, and then the underground tape trading circuits kind of started around the kind of 85, 86, 87 kind of time. So, and I guess the At the Gates guys would listen to the same stuff we were, and then that's the rest is history,
Yeah. When you eventually then started getting out on the road and whatnot and getting to places like Norway and Sweden, did you find that Paradise Lost almost like had a second home in Scandinavia because of that burgeoning scene that was taking place?
Originally, it was Holland. I mean, we used to go to Holland. Holland always seemed to be the place to go at that time. And then Germany after that. We didn't. I can't remember the first time we went to Sweden. It was probably a little bit after that, but it was just sort of easy to get on the ferry and then just go to Holland and drive up to Germany and then back. But go to Scandinavia usually involved a tour bus or an airplane, and at that point we weren't touring to that extent, so we probably went there later on, So, but yeah, I mean, it was always the crowds are always, instantly more appreciating of the band on the mainland of Europe for sure. In definitely the first kind of 5 years of the band for sure.
Yeah. And just whilst we're in the 90s, I realized today, as we're in 2025, it's now 30 years since Draconian Times. How do you look back on that album?
It's of a time. It's and I hear it sounds of a time. The production's very, very of the 90s. It's got that kind of classic sound, kind of production that a lot of bands had that similar sound at that time. Songs are very reminiscent of the 90s as well. How they were written, and we had I think it's good songs on there. It's very up tempo, but each album we've done is very much of that time it was done. So I don't have any. It's the best we can do at that time it's released. So it's bearing that in mind. We never actually look back and think, "Oh, we should have done this or changed that," because there's no point. We just keep going forward. So it's. But yeah, it was. We had a lot of fun off the back of that album. We had, it was certainly a very, one of the high points of for the band for sure. You know,
Just as you say, you're always moving forward, and you're on album number 17 now. It's been a relentless march really over the whole career of Paradise Lost. Do you enjoy recording music today more than you did back in the day? Like, is it just easier, or was it more fun back in the day because it was a little bit more challenging and difficult?
I think it's harder now. Because you kind of start with a blank sheet, and after 17 albums, it's always daunting when you begin to write. But after about 3 or 4 songs, you kind of get into the ball starts rolling, but it's always initially quite. It is very kind of stressy and when you got a few songs, you kind of know where you're going with it. So I mean, what we did this time, we kind of had to we shelved everything for about 2 years, and then we came back again, and then we managed to make some ground, and I think the album's better because of that, because we had longer to work on it. But yeah, we still totally enjoy it. It's not like when we were younger. Everything revolved around when we could get drunk, or go to the pub. I mean, that's all it was in the first 15 years of the band, probably first 25 years of the band. But yeah, now it's we're a lot more serious about it. We're kind of we're certainly a lot more. The pub's not a thing anymore. But I mean, when you start a band, I mean that we used to kind of rehearse on a Thursday and Friday, and we just go straight to the pub afterwards. So it was the rehearsal was a social event. All our friends was coming to the rehearsals, and then we drink at the rehearsals. So it was a big, the full day event kind of thing. So that I used to, it was great. But I mean, we were all, in our late teens or whatever, and so obviously that's the sort of stuff you do.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common theme I've spoken to so many bands over the years is, when they start out, as you say, there's the excitement, and then there's a lot of, drinking and everything like that. Would you say it's perhaps one of the biggest challenges of a band is almost to get through like band adolescence and get to that point where you can go, okay, we don't need alcohol or drugs to function as a band and be who we want to be?
It's sort of, I mean, when it's always there. I mean, Greg doesn't drink. Greg hasn't drunk for 4 years now. But it's and a lot of my friends don't drink. The older I get, the more people are dropping off with the booze. They're just stopping doing it for mostly health reasons. But yeah, I mean, I guess I mean, when you're younger as well, it's always there. Every single day you walk in a room and there's always booze there. So it is quite. I could see why people fall off and then become like they need it. But luckily we've always sort of, I mean, I still drink, but it's not like I can take it or leave it. But yeah, I could see why the temptation why some people kind of get in a bad way with it, because it is just always there, and it's
for bands, because all you have to do is just request it on your rider and it'll be there for you essentially,
But
so it's hard to get away from it.
But I've got some friends in bands as well, and they've had like dry tours where someone says we're having no booze, and then the rest of the guys in the band, they're just kind of sneaking off to get beer on the side, So there's always, you know what I mean? It's available everywhere, so you can, if you got something in your head, you're gonna be able to go and get it, So.
Yeah, I agree. Nick, it has been wonderful to catch up. Just before I let you go, I'd like to wrap up the chat, as the album does, and talk about the track "A Life Unknown." This to me felt like very much a quintessential Paradise Lost track. What's the meaning behind this one?
Well, it was more about you're born alone and you die alone, and it's just a kind of play on that, really. I guess you sort of like whoever's around you, whatever you've got in life, but ultimately you are on your own at the end, like you are at the beginning, and it's basically that, really, in a nutshell.
That reminds me of Metallica's music video for One. If you remember the music video with the film segment, Johnny got his gun, and the father of the son who got blown up in the war said, "Each man must face death alone." And then, he's saying goodbye, and it's so haunting. Like,
it is, yeah, it's quite sad. I remember that video.
It is, yeah, it's a brilliant video. But what you're saying there reminds me of that. Brilliant, Nick. Thank you so much for the chat today, and congratulations again on Ascension 17th studio album. I'm sure you got tours and everything lined up. So, what's going to be happening for Paradise Lost throughout 2025?
October we're going out on the road doing 3.5 weeks, I think, and then I guess we'll be doing bits and pieces till Christmas. Then after Christmas, we'll do part 2 of the European tour, and then we'll do America. So all next year will be super busy. Then obviously the festivals again next summer. So yeah, it's busy.
Perfect, great, Nick. Thank you so much for your time.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
For more from Prime Audio Radio, simply hit the subscribe button or listen to our radio station 24/7 at primeaudioradio.com.
Primordial Radio.